Hello everybody and welcome back on Planticaly. My name is Amar and today we are continuing the series Plant-Phylum Spotlight. Today about Halophytes. Well, first of all, what are Halophytes? The name comes from Greek, as always, from what we have already discussed, phytes, meaning plants, and now halos, or rather halas, which means salt, thus halophytes, salt plants. The if we, so to speak, we have salt plants on one side of the scale. On the other side of the scale are the glycophytes. Those are the plants that are not salt tolerant, which, well, the salt plants, as the name suggests, are. Now then, most plants only tolerate about 1 to 3 grams per liter of dissolved salts, and well, they don't tolerate it for a long, uh, for continuous, for a long time. They don't tolerate it; they would die. But for example, seawater has usually 40 grams per liter of dissolved salts, and halophytes are, you can classify them in many ways, but usually if people speak about halophytes or plants that act like halophytes, any plants that can tolerate more than those 3 grams per liter of dissolved salts. For example, the date palm, Phoenix dactylifera, as we have discussed in our last video, is a desert plant that no, and this plant can tolerate up to 4 grams of dissolved salts. And some plants, like the dwarf glassworth, I think I have pronounced it right, can tolerate up to 70 grams per liter of dissolved salts, which to some extent those plants are extremophytes. They can live in the most extreme environments, which usually plants cannot colonize and inhibit. Biomes of our world that are dominated by halophytes are kelp forests in the cold oceans and the coastal shoreline, salt marshes, and mangrove forests. These are all these are all biomes where halophytes make up most of the environment, which is interesting because halophytes only make up to 2% of all plant species on this planet. Well, I'm sorry for the sudden cut. It just knocked on the door and I had to answer it. Please excuse it. What I was trying to say now is that on my last visit to Spain, I was able to see many halophytes just crawling about, creeping around the ground as low ground cover, but they can also come in greater sizes like shrubs, or also as trees, like we've already discussed. The date palm, but also coconut palms are considered halophytes to an extent, and also the mangroves, which can grow in massive sizes, are also halophytes. I think they are very interesting, and those plants could be beneficial to human development in the future because of the rising sea levels of global warming, and thus, well, the sea levels rise, and we could benefit from plants that have more of an adaptability to the higher salt contents, which to some extent contaminate the soils with seawater And yes, that's it's already causing a lot of problems because during this year there happened well, not this year. This year is we're just in February. No, in 2020 there was a great drought in Europe where we didn't have a lot of rain, and then also there wasn't a lot of rain in Italy, and that is then, so to speak, the river Po, I think it is, didn't have enough water, so the sea uh, went further up the mouth of the river and thus contaminated the rice fields of the plantations that are there in northern Italy, which we have already uh, um, we are already facing problems with salt contamination and would uh, need in the future we could need plants and crops which have a higher adaptability to the salt contents. And about those plants, they have an interesting adaptation of how they can um, uh, live with the high salt contents, is that they suck up all the salts with the water they take in, and later they excrete it through salt glands, which some plants have on the leaves. For example, mangrove leaves have salt glands which slowly excrete the salt, and usually there's then a layer of salt on the leaves which would cause the leaves to, well, not receive as much sunlight. Then they would uh, brown up, die, which is not beneficial to the plant. But in nature, there's also a lot of moisture in the air, rain and monsoon season in those parts where mangroves grow, and thus the leaves are always washed off of the salt. And it's an interesting way that those plants have adapted, because they should die, so to speak, because of the salt contents, but they have managed, they are managing it with what the environment gives them, that salts and the fresh water to wash off their leaves, and it's an interesting cycle. And well, I'm sorry, but I think we have already discussed all there is to say about halophytes. I deem them very interesting, and I hope all of you also think of them as very interesting plants. And I hope you like this series. I want to continue it with other Plant-Phylum spotlights. If you have suggestions, maybe leave them in the comment section and give this video a thumbs up so I see that you like this sort of videos. And that would be all for me. We will see each other next Friday. See ya. Bye.